Luther Harris, Angie Gibson, Patricia Alford, Geneva Fields, Willa Mathis, Geneva Johnson, Jennifer Williams, Eartha Watkins. Thank you very much. You are the Freedom Singers. Well, if you have ever wondered if art matters in the midst of the need for fundamental change in this country, remember this experience. Welcome to Atlanta, Georgia. On behalf of the Atlanta Host Committee, my national conference co-chairs, Janet Sauerbaugh, Veronique Lamel, and especially Ruby Lerner, thank you for coming. The opening sessions of our time together in Atlanta at this conference are focused on place, this new American city, which has been the fastest growing metropolitan region in the United States for nearly 20 years. This city, which has more nonprofits per capita than any city in the United States. This city, which will hopefully contribute to our thinking as we reflect upon the fact that for the first time in history, more people are living in metropolitan areas than not. We gather at an unprecedented time in our country and in the world. Our eyes are glazed and our brains are churning as we seek to understand the economic and political climate around us. If you are like me, you are intensely connected to the media, whether you're on your handheld or your TV or your computer, just like we were after 9/11 almost, trying to make sense of a fundamental change in the paradigm that we know as American life. Indeed, a few days ago, I stealed away from the media and my day job and the last-minute work of conference planning to go to a concert. And after I sat down in the theater and looked for my seatbelt, really, and listened for a few minutes, I found that my eyes were, well, a bit misty, as I was really moved by the fact that I had slowed down and felt the emotion of the times and heard the magic of the music. Maybe we have a few days here together to unplug a little bit while we reconnect in other ways. If you are like me, you have been thinking about your day-to-day work in the arts and its relationship to the collapsing economy, which is collapsing so many dreams and affecting so many lives in ways that we don't even totally understand yet. If you are like me, you are feeling particularly grateful for a job, but also feeling an even greater sense of responsibility to do what matters. Our grant making needs to change, and we know that, but we may not know how. As grant makers, our choices will become even more difficult, I fear. But at the moment, we have a few precious days together to be able to feed the hunger we feel to improve our craft, to focus our effectiveness, and to, most importantly, to deepen our relationships with a very smart group of people who have gathered here. A group of people from whom, perhaps, more than any other group, we can learn more. Together, we will try to figure out the present and future culture and its expressions that drive our country. We will have to dig deeper for the ingenuity required to figure out how to get there. And while we do this, we will have to remember that we are also remarkably informed by history and by place. It is now my pleasure to introduce Gary Pomerantz. Gary has worked as a journalist for both the Washington Post and as an Atlanta resident in the 1990s, was a journalist for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, and also a distinguished professor of journalism at Emory University. During the time that Gary was here, he wrote a remarkable book, Where Peachtree Meets Sweet Auburn, a saga of race and family. This book I won't give too many of the punchlines, Gary, but this book tells the story of two families, the Allen family and the Dobbs family, who over several centuries, a plantation owner and a slave family, who we follow through a nonfiction story that tells us the story of how these families spurned each an Atlanta mayor in the 20th century Atlanta. His lively intellect can't seem to avoid telling stories about people who we want more of, like Wilt Chamberlain, about whose incredible performances he wrote in his book, Wilt, The Night of 100 Points and the Dawn of a New Era. Gary has recently completed a final draft of his fourth book of nonfiction. Indeed, he said to me several months ago that he couldn't talk over the summer because of his big deadline. Gary has been recognized by the Columbia School of Journalism and the American Editor magazine for his distinguished writing about race relations. He is a history grad from UC Berkeley and was a journalism fellow at the University of Michigan, where he studied theater and the Bible. Gary is here with us from California, where he is now a lecturer at Stanford University and where he lives with his wife and 3 children. Gary, welcome back.
You know, I had told Lisa that I wanted to go before the Freedom Singers. What a tough act that is to follow. Miss Harris, your voice is gorgeous, and it is timeless. It is timeless. Thank you. Don't thank me. Thank you. In the next day or so, while you're still in town, I would ask you to look 6 blocks in that direction, 6 blocks to the east. There you're going to find a lovely park. There's the place where you're going to hear the heartbeat of our history, not just Atlanta history, but American history, transformative history, from Civil War on through civil rights. There's the place where the Confederate arsenal was located, where the guns, canteens, and bullets were made to prosecute the war against Abraham Lincoln's government. There's the place where, in 1856, a free person of color named Mary Combs purchased a tract of land for $250. She sold it 6 years later, in 1862, for $500, and used the money to emancipate her enslaved husband. Now, there's a symbolic message in her story. And in Atlanta's story, she knew about freedom, and she knew how to make a profit. There's the place where in 1939, Clark Gable and Vivian Leigh swept past in the motorcade for the Gone with the Wind film premiere. That day, nearly 300,000 people crowded along Peachtree Street. Think about that. That's twice the number of the combatants in the combined armies that had fought in the Battle of Atlanta 75 years before. And that night, just a few blocks away, the Ebenezer Baptist Church Children's Choir performed in slave costume. And there for all of white Atlanta to see, including the local author, Margaret Mitchell, and all the Hollywood stars, 10-year-old Martin Luther King Jr. sang dressed as a pickaninny